Thank you for tuning in to another edition of Positively Affirmative. I am your host, Katrina Jones, Prosperity Life Coach, along with Wanda Myles, radio personality. And today the topic is the 5 love languages. And the 5 love languages is a book that was written by Gary Chapman, who is a psychologist. And the story behind him writing this book, because it's become a brand now, the 5 love languages. He's got love language of children, singles, adults, families.
All right, I didn't know there were more for children. So there's 5 love languages. Okay, no, I'll stay with
it's 5 love languages, but how to apply these love languages to relationships, to, when you're single, how to apply it when you have to your family, to your teenagers.
All right, one step at a time today.
It's a thing.
It's beginners.
Mm-hmm. So it's really interesting, his backstory. He writes that he was in an airplane. And you know how when you're sitting in a plane and, you get to having a conversation with the person sitting next to you and they ask, what do you do? And so that conversation came up and he was like, oh, I'm a psychologist. And so the guy was like, oh, and then they talk and he, it came out, well, I've been married 3 times. And, I just don't understand what's wrong with these women. It's like, the first time I was married for 10 years and the second marriage lasted for 3 years and, it was great. And then this happened. And then the last marriage lasted for 6 years. And, I don't know what the problem is. And so Gary Chapman is a marriage counselor. And that, I think that happened to him over time. He became a marriage counselor. And I guess over seeing couples over and over again, he began to realize that the number one problem in marriages is the fact that what he realized is that he identified 5 different love languages. And he recognized that a lot of times the reasons that a marriage goes bad is because partners speak their love language when they're communicating with their partner instead of learning the love language of the partner. And so I thought that was really interesting. He says that there are 5 ways people speak and understand. And so those are the 5 love languages.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Keep it simple.
Yep. And so he asked the question, do you speak the language of your spouse? And, do you speak the language of your spouse? And I found that to be very interesting because I've said for a long time, I realized a long time ago that the qualities in a relationship, the qualities that I find so endearing and so sweet or quirky or whatever that thing is, when that infatuation period of the being in love, are the same qualities that become irritable, that can tear the relationship apart. And he said the same thing. So I was like, oh, that's a confirmation.
That works.
Yeah, that was a confirmation. And so he says that he talked about children and sometimes adults, children having what he called, every child has an emotional tank that's looking to be filled with love. And I thought that was interesting.
What is it called again?
An emotional tank. Yeah, I think that's what he called it. An emotional. Yeah, keep the love tank. And every child has an empty emotional tank that's looking to be filled with love.
Aw.
And that's interesting, Wanda, because last week we talked about emotional bank accounts.
Oh.
And a lot of times as parents, we don't know how to fill the emotional tanks of our children. And a lot of times as adults, our emotional tanks have not been filled. And it's hard to give what you don't have. And so he said that when your emotional tank is filled, you're a different person. You respond differently to people and situations. You behave differently. Your behavior is differently.
Yeah.
So he talked about, we fall in love, and which is kind of like infatuation. And it's when that, I always say when it gets real, but when that infatuation period is over, then we begin to kind of see the flaws, and we just begin to see things from a different perspective. And a lot of times that's when the problems come into play. But then he says, but when you begin to learn the 5 love languages, and you begin to understand what your love language is, and then you begin to understand what the love language of your partner is, that is the key to having a lasting relationship. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what about but he does take it into further like working relationships and the day to day.
Exactly. And I think that once you learn the core 5 love languages and what they are, then it becomes easier to, when you're communicating with others, it becomes easier to identify what their love language may be.
Okay, very good.
And so the first love language he talked about was words of affirmation.
Okay.
And so words of affirmation, and so I took notes, so I'll be looking down. Words of affirmation are like verbal compliments, words of appreciation, encouraging words, words that inspire, and humbling words. And so I'm going to put down in the link a website where people can take the 5 love language test, and we took the test.
Yeah.
And when I took the test, my primary love language is words of affirmation. And that made so much sense to me because I'm always talking about the importance of words. I'm always listening to, words that are being said, and, what does that mean? And, how am I using my words? So words of affirmation is one of the love languages. The second language is quality time. And quality time is...
That's me.
When a person's love language is quality time, they really want your undivided attention. Time is precious. They believe that time is precious, and time is important. And Wanda, when you told me that when you took the test, that was your primary love language, it reminded me, you and I, we were talking about something one day. You were helping me to do something. And I said to you, well, Wanda, let me pay you for your services. Let me pay you for this. And you were like, well, you can buy me lunch. You can buy me lunch. And I thought about that.
Yeah.
so you do enjoy that spending time with people, and you know, yeah, so that's
Quality time.
quality time. So the third gift or love language is receiving gifts. And with receiving gifts, people whose love language is receiving gifts, when you give them a gift, they see that as a symbol of love, an act of love, um, an investment in them. And I remember, like, my mother, she loved to receive gifts. And I remember we would give her gifts and she wouldn't even use it. It was just the fact that she had it. It took me years to realize that was her love language.
Yeah.
So, the gift of, the gift, giving of gifts is a love language. That's number 3. Acts of service. You know what? Acts of service was my first love language. Um, and words of affirmation was my second. So acts of service is the 4th love language. And with acts of service, people, it's important when you do things, like maybe you wash the dishes, or you take the time to work on a project with somebody, or the act of doing things for that other person is an act of service. So acts of service, he says, consider serving someone, your spouse, love, an older relative, caring attentively for a pet, a favorite cause. So doing things for a person is the act of service. And the 5th love language is physical touch. And physical touch is just that. Some people just enjoy holding hands, or just being able to that contact, that
displays of affection.
Displays of affection. Yeah, it means a lot to people. And so when you understand what your love language is, then I like, when I understood my love language, as I began to understand more and more about my love language, it helps me to understand why I do the things that I do, why certain things in my life are so important to me. But also, I realized that I, often expect for other people to do acts of service, or to use words of affirmation when when I'm interacting with them, because that's my love languages. But, taking it a step further, when I take the time to learn somebody else's love language, then I realize that then it helps me to realize that, I may need to take a step back and do things a little differently, and that everybody doesn't have the same interest that I have, or doesn't see life through the same set of lenses that I see life through. And if I want to develop deeper relationships, then once I learn that other person's language, I can do things with them and for them um, that will strengthen our relationship, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think it's a really good book. He goes into a lot of details, and a lot more in depth about the love languages, and he gives a lot of examples. Um,
Does
but I
he
think,
does he go out and do talks and things like that?
yeah, he's been doing maybe not so much now, because this book, he's been doing this for over 10, 15 years
Okay.
now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for a long time. So I'm not sure, but I can remember maybe about 10 years ago when I was first introduced to the five love languages. I spoke to um, his person who does his activities and his scheduler, his promotion person
Yeah.
at the time, and I wanted to get him on my radio show, and he was booked up then, and he was very booked up at that time. So I'm not sure what he does today, but he's got a brand, and I know that he's got a website where people can take the five love language test for free.
Fivelovelanguages.com.
Love, mm-hmm. Love
Five
language, the
fivelovelanguages.com.
five love languages.com to see what their love language is. And just a really good book.
There's a
Yeah.
bunch of books there.
Yeah.
You got teens? Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, Singles edition. I guess I
Yeah.
guess I can.
Military. He's got a military five love languages for the
Does.
military. So maybe if you're dealing, if you're dealing with someone in the military, because they do I guess that's a whole different indoctrination. When you are a military person
Definitely.
and being able to deal with that, that maybe personality type. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
really,
sure.
yeah, the
I'm
five
sure
love
it is.
of military, the five love languages for singles, five languages of teenagers, the five languages of children, or love languages of children, the five love languages, the heart cover edition, and the five love languages, for men, five love languages for men. So just a lot of editions, and it's just a really good book. Really
That's
good
a
book.
five languages editions.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have anything else to add to that, Wanda?
No, it's good stuff.
All
Keeps you
right.
keeps you up to date on things. Lots of reading. Stay out of trouble too.
Yeah. All right. So, yep, this one is going to be short and sweet. Just was a good book, a good topic that I feel like will help a lot of people. Because I can remember when I was starting my spiritual walk, I would want to know, what are some books that I can read? What are some things that I could do to continue to improve myself, my personal development, even my professional development. And this was a book that was just very instrumental in my life. And so just wanting to share it, to help someone else who may find it interesting.
Yeah. And they have a workplace and a curriculum, so that's really nice to know.
Mhm.
Lots of stuff to utilize there, Mr. Chapman. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. All right. So
Meditate.
this edition was short and sweet. And we're gonna bring it to a close. And we always want to thank you for tuning in to Positively Affirmative. If this was helpful to you in any way, please like, share, and subscribe
Yep.
to the channel. Also, like, share, and subscribe to Route Route
664 radio.
664 radio.org. Good
Uh,
listening.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
The
Best
road to
radio. Route 664.org.
radio.org.
.org/radio. You'll find us. Find us in the Google search. Good old Google.
Yeah, The Road to Human Kindness. Good music, just good music.
Just 15 minutes of your day. Just stop by. Really, just I'm not looking to keep you for very long at all because I know time is precious. Quality time, baby.
All right, Wanda.
All right. Well, have a happy day. Have a happy week until we see you again.
You too.
Drive like you love somebody.
All right. You have a good evening, Wanda. Okay.
All right. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
All right. Bless.